So this will be a quick overview of how to convert to black and white and how best to edit your images once they're converted to black and white. So I'm going to start in the Basics tab in the Develop module. And the easiest way to convert to black and white is simply click on black and white in the Treatment area of the Basics tab. When you do that, you'll often notice the image is rather flat when compared to what it might be in color. I haven't done any editing to this image, so I could start with going down to auto, but there are actually more sophisticated ways of editing images when they're in black and white. One of those is the tone curve. Now, I'm going to make my window maybe a little bit different laid out here so we can hopefully see all of our controls. Yes. So we have highlights, lights, darks, and shadows. It's essentially broken up the histogram into 4 different sections. This is a curve much like what you might find in Photoshop, if anyone's familiar with that. And the way that it works is if I pull up on our graph, it'll pull up whatever tones, or I suppose down on whatever tones are in that range of the graph. So we've got pure black on the left, pure white on the right, and different kind of groupings throughout. I particularly actually like to use a special tool up at the top here, which is this little adjustment option. If I click on this, I can actually click on a tone in my image, and if I click and drag up or drag down, it will brighten or darken kind of the whole grouping of the graph based on that value. So right here, I'm grabbing a value that is fairly light, but it is considering it to be on the darks side, so like shadows, not blacks, not highlights, not whites. And I could pull that out perhaps. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, and you'll see the graph move based on where I pull the cursor. So I was going to lighten up that tone and any other related tones, particularly maybe going even into the whites here. I think maybe my whites are actually too bright, so I'm going to click and I'm going to drag them down slightly. This is actually taking contrast out of my image. But I may actually want to darken my really dark tones, my tones down here, in order to make it have a little bit more seemingly contrast in the shadow areas. So you can kind of adjust each of those 4 areas to whatever you think is best. You could also just pull on the sliders and see what they do. And this is probably the most ideal way of editing a black and white image, although you could still do these global adjustments, increasing and decreasing the overall exposure, keeping an eye on the histogram. And I might say, oh, look, I've got these washed out areas in my highlights, and so I might want to pull my whites down until those disappear. And I might even pull my highlights down a little. So that way I'm holding within the histogram. So you might have to go in between these, but usually on a daylight shot, you would do minor adjustments up here, and the tone curve would do most of the work. I think my image is just a little tricky because it's done at night. So down here in black and white, we have the ability to brighten and darken based on our original color tones. And this is something really unique and awesome in Lightroom. My image started as a kind of red brick building with green trees, so I could actually adjust those areas of my image separate. So if I want to make the red brick brighter, I could pull that up, or I could perhaps pull it down, depending on what I want. And for the trees, I'll go into green, and I could make them pop out more, or make them kind of fade into being darker, I guess. It's not fading in the background because they're kind of not looking right when it has a lot of contrast when I pull that down. So I might actually go up with them if I want them to stand out more. Anyway, those are the basic controls that I would experiment with and see if you can edit your image. Not going to what looks amazing and crazy, try to go with what looked accurate to reality. Of course, black and white is an abstraction of color vision, so it's not true to reality, but don't go crazy with it is the point.